Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues, and anybody who's listening in, here we are, another episode, another podcast. And today we've got a guest who's based in North Carolina. His name's Alan Thomas. He's the Executive Vice President of Fly Exclusive. So, Alan, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. I really enjoy it, and look forward to our conversation. It's exciting to be here and be your guest.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And a very nice backdrop you've got there, which we'll come to later on with the control dashboard there. So really good. Now, Alan, can you just give us a little bit of background as to, what you do, what your company does?
Sure. We are a Part 135 private jet charter company here based in the eastern part of North Carolina, which is a state on the eastern coast of the U.S. We have a floating fleet of 57 jets all over North America. This company has an interesting history. The founder is Jim Seagrave. He founded about 15 years ago, actually 12 years ago, a private jet charter company, and over a number of years built that up. And Delta Airlines bought his private jet company, and lock, stock, and barrel. So he actually sold that to Delta, became Delta Private Jets. And once his non-compete ended a couple of years ago, actually 4.5 years ago to be precise, with 6 employees and 3 jets, he decided that he still had the itch and wanted to stay in private aviation, something he was really talented in. And he and Mike Guina, who is from London, who's the president of the company, he was one of those six folks. And so 4.5 years ago, 6 employees, 3 jets, and now we have over 170 pilots and 57 jets, everything from light jets, mid, super mids, up to heavies. And we're flying all over the world out of a floating fleet all over North America.
Fantastic. And when you say floating fleet, just for some of the listeners, can you just expand on that?
Sure. What that means is we have kind of a mobile base of operations. So we may have some of our fleet, rather than having just here at our core headquarters here in North Carolina, we have jets that are based in Teterboro up in New York, down in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, California, Van Nuys, Chicago, all over North America, where our fleet's actually. So they're located based on obviously our algorithms and our coverage areas all over the country to make sure we have efficiencies in where our aircraft are located and we can provide the best value for our customers.
Oh, that's fantastic. Can I ask you something just straight off the bat there? You said you've got 170 pilots.
Yeah.
Now, how it must be hugely difficult to keep them in rotation and also in accommodation and available. I mean, that must be an immense task in itself.
It really is, and they're like a family. And we have the other value added about our company is that Jim Seagrave, our owner, every new aircraft that we bring on the fleet, he gets type trained for every aircraft. Okay. As well as our CEO, as well as our president, Mike Guina. Mike literally goes out and flies routes with our pilots. He just got type trained on the Sovereign. So he's out flying with our guys. So we have strong camaraderie in our core with our pilots. We're a popular place to work.
Yeah.
And it's a good environment. It is. And there's always a good, strong rotation of talent that we bring through the company and try to mix and match our talent and try to make the best matches of our pilots and co-pilots, and we feel like we do a pretty good job at it.
Oh, brilliant. And what about other crew?
Pilots, co-pilots, other than our international flight, we do have some flight attendants on the international piece, but otherwise, we do our own maintenance here in North Carolina. We have a very large maintenance facility. We're also building electrostatic painting and coating facility here right now, which will open up the third quarter of this year. Not only will we paint our own cycle of all of our jet aircraft, but that's open to the public. I mean, prior we're having to send our aircraft all the way out to Nebraska, other people up to the Northeast, and we'd rather decided that we want to do that ourselves. So a 24,000 square feet here facility and painting, and also an interior shop, which I launched a couple of months ago here to do our interiors and for other fleets as well.
And that's a skill in itself, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
It's incredible, absolutely amazing. I've been lucky enough to see inside a few, and it's a little bit like when you go to a boat show, and you think, my God, how have they put so much into such a space?
It really is. It's an amazing operation when you watch the maintenance cycle and the avionics and all the things that go into because most of these aircraft, if you think about it, a normal person may trade their automobile in, every few years, right? These aircraft fly for decades, and they're immaculate.
Yeah.
And how you take care of them from their efficiency standpoint, and especially obviously the FAA here in the U.S., very detailed and very demanding in how we take care of an aircraft. But we're considered top of the line in how we highest rating with Argus in terms of how we take care of our aircraft.
That's good. And well, with a name like Fly Exclusive, one would expect that, eh?
Absolutely. We hope to live up to our name every day with every single flight.
I think so. And what's part of your tagline, which I was looking at, affordability, accessibility, and client satisfaction?
Absolutely. That's the key for us. And our clients aren't just the end user. We're actually used for supplemental lift by Wheels Up and a lot of the other larger companies you may have heard of by brand name. We're the fleet that meet all the qualifications that at one point we were doing close to half of all the supplemental lift, for Wheels Up and some other companies here. We're the seventh largest private jet charter fleet in the country, and a lot of our business is working for other partner private jet companies.
Which is not a bad thing, huh?
Not at all, and we hold ourselves to a very high standard. So we have more B2B has been our core function prior to what I'll say March, but we have a strong business model pushing more towards retail as we go into the other side of the equation that we're all dealing with right now.
Exactly. So now to come to that, but just on the basis that other operators like use you, that's also a very positive thing, because for them to use you, it's also an extension of their reputation, their standards, and their quality. So it's a very strong endorsement of your own capability and product.
It really is, and it says a lot about the type of pilots and the talent that we hire. Yep. It talks about the type of how we take care of our aircraft, and also our reliability. I mean, our reliability rating of 98% in completing our flights and making sure we get people where they're supposed to be and on time is something we're very proud of, and we hope to probably translate that even more to the B2C realm as we go to the other end here.
Okay, good. Yeah, and do you train? Do you bring on cadet pilots, or you take pilots from existing carriers? Or
it's an interesting scenario how pilots make it here. Eastern North Carolina is an area that's surrounded by a lot of military and ex-military.
Yeah.
And also we receive a lot of interest from regional jet pilots and co-pilots who are looking for a change and looking for a different environment and a way to approach opportunities. So we do train. We have a class that we normally do twice a month, an incoming class of pilots that we train and bring through our system. And our goal this year was to add 20 more jets. So we're constantly growing and kind of adding to our equation.
And what multiple to jet according to the time and the four? Okay,
yeah. 4 to 1.
Okay, very good. Now you mentioned about the scenario and the situation we're in, and obviously everybody in the whole world now, every morning, every evening, and several times during the day, they're hit with all the stats, the numbers, which system is right, which system is wrong, and God knows who the experts are. But the one thing that's sure, nobody's got any experience, so there are no experts. So we're all learning together, and there is going to be a new normal. Now, lots of people are very worried. Lots of people are skeptical. There's a lot of anxiety. But I was sitting talking to Salem before we went live. If I was in your position, I'd be seeing this as a huge, huge, huge opportunity, and not just an opportunity because of the sensitivities of the crisis, but a genuine opportunity that there's going to be a change in the way people perceive their own value of space, their loved ones, and the fear element that's going to be there for a long time after we come out of this, in whatever degree we come out of it.
I would agree. I feel like, we look at this in terms of what the world was like prior to March and then what it's going to look like going forward. And for us, we feel like how people view travel, how they view being confined in close spaces with a lot of people is going to be immeasurably changed forever in our lifetime.
Yep.
For many, many years. And for us, particular, the fact that we specialize in providing an intimate, private healthy, efficient way for people that need to get from A to B globally, or wherever they need to do it domestically on a regular basis, or on, with family, with business, with whatever they need to do. Many people that have previously flown many people that have previously flown first class and were more predisposed to fly through normal large airport environments because that's what they've been accustomed to. We feel like that has changed forever. And we see that as an opportunity for us to really provide a value for an entire new class of flyers that realize that are going to put a premium and an optimal approach in how they get from A to B for their fellow employees and also for their families.
Yeah, and I also think it's not just about the aircraft, it's about the whole process. So it's about the journey time. It's about what happens when you get to an airport, how you're dealt with at the airport. Do you want to be in a crowded lounge, irrespective of how exclusive those lounges are? The check-in process, the security process, all of those things are going to take a different viewpoint from people, I think, moving forward.
Right. I agree. And for us, we want to control the entire process. And when they leave their home or their office, bringing them to a private FBO, which is just a small, intimate environment where they can get out of their vehicle, walk up to the door, hand the pilots or the folks that assist their luggage, get on the plane, link back into whatever Wi-Fi, whatever they need, and work and be in a safe environment. And when we drop them off, no interaction with anyone else except whom they need to interact with, and off on their way and on doing their business.
Yeah, I see it as a really, really almost like a natural progression now for people who've got the capital to actually spend on that side of the business, rather than having 3 or 4 family members sitting in first class with them. Why would you not then explore how to do this? Now, have you got any specific strategy or tactical approach to how you're going to bring that into a wider audience? Because it's still got the stigma of being a sports or a pop star or a film star or a politician or a wealthy magnate. It's still got that sort of persona.
Well, anyone who wants to put their family first and the safety of those that they feel are important in their life or in their business, we provide a very efficient alternative for them. And you're right. Part of that's going to be, in our messaging and how we communicate this going forward. And once this happened, we all got over the initial shock of what does this really mean in my life, and things start to settle in, and then we start planning. Well, what is my business? What is my company going to look like 30 to 60 to 90 days? So we actually are in the process now of what we call Fly Exclusive 2.0, which is inventing our approach to this entire travel landscape and our value proposition in that landscape of what we're able to do. And we feel those that have been less inclined to fly private, helping them understand that, hey, this is something that's for you and you can do on a regular basis from a price point standpoint, from an availability standpoint, just from a peace of mind standpoint. There's a lot of people that may have placed value in other areas in their life, and now they place more of a premium on how they fly, in a healthy environment, and where they need to go.
Yeah, and I would imagine you'll also look at different products from membership clubs to frequent flyer benefits, things like that.
Absolutely, and we may ultimately end up being an extension of some of the commercial airlines who understand that they're going to lose a large part of their flying public.
Yes.
So a relationship there, hand in hand, if that transition is going to happen, make it a planned transition where there's a value added and a shared value proposition between these entities.
100%. I think that makes an awful lot of sense. The other thing is, and now people are going to start looking at vacations and everything that you've said about traveling to and from, but they're going to also start looking at what happens when you get somewhere.
Yes.
And I think whereas the world has always looked at cost and throwaway society, things are going to go back to what I would call some old style values now, and people's ideas of what's really important is going to change. Making memories is going to be so important because everything has changed in people's heads now. I think it's going to have such an incredible effect. Now, also, I would imagine vacations are also now going to start looking at, to use your name, exclusivity, and they're going to be looking to do things similar. Now, do you see a partnership opportunity between yourselves and some of these high-end vacation options?
We do, and that's part of our strategy. It was before and will continue to be. We think there'll be a tremendous opportunity to work hand in hand with the exclusive type resorts, facilities all over the world. Actually, we're able to provide travel plans and either direct with our fleet. We're a company-owned fleet. These aren't managed aircraft. All 57 of our jets, and our mileage is add another 20 going into what 2.0 is going to look like here. The second half of the year. But yes, working close for the entire experience, right, Chris? Yeah. That's really what it's all about. The peace of mind, the quality. The one byproduct I've really noticed, and having been on the phone with family, not being able to spend time with them, two things. Number one, I miss them. Yeah. Not having that close interpersonal interaction with our friends. There's something about that I think that we're all noticing. And number two, we're spending way more time with our close family.
Yes.
The people that we see every day, and it's really, I think, reconnecting us with, as you say, old school values of what's really important instead of all the distractions of the world. And I think it will push more people to reconnect with that feeling once we're on the other side of this for vacations and things of that nature and quality time. And we want to create that environment, be a part of that environment.
Yeah, that's special moments. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've worked abroad. I've worked abroad since '94, and people joke that the reason I've got such a long marriage is because we've spent so much time apart. But I'm getting to know my wife again, and I've got to say it's good. She's really, really looking after me, and it's been a real pleasure. But I agree with you now. I think people are going to put so much value on special moments and creating those memories and, making things absolutely superb. So I think there's an incredible opportunity there.
And that's why we want to have a good, intimate relationship with our clientele and with the market. We want you to know about our pilots. We want you to know about the people that work with us. They're just like you. They have family. So that's been a big part of our push here, quite frankly, into April and May and June is get to know us, not just as our aircraft, but the personality, what Fly Exclusive and the mission, what we're really all about. And we want to share this ride with you, for the next few years.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And I would also imagine now that there are a lot, I mentioned about people being able to afford it, but I would imagine now a lot of sports clubs, a lot of entertainment and large businesses, they're going to be looking now to secure regular space for their top executives, whether it be as an incentive or whether it be as a prerequisite, as a key, as a key man policy type approach.
Absolutely agree. We had a plan prior to the current scenario where we were working with a couple of companies where on a daily basis, 2-3 times a week, we were flying their key executives from Chicago, Detroit, and other areas to a corporate headquarters and making sure they arrived there safely. And so we were creating a staged fleet environment, which was custom to that company. And we're doing pretty well with that. We feel like that's a model that we would like to replicate all over, especially North America, to provide, the pilots that take you there every day, the aircraft, and we can back that up and put you in a position to, and now this has become a very real viable solutions for people that want to, now it's a selling point to come work for companies that, we're going to make sure we put you in the safest and healthiest environment possible.
That's it. Yeah, I agree. Plus, it saves a lot of time, and it also takes a lot of stress out, and it makes people enjoy that travel that they have to do for certain meetings, etc.
And once you step on our aircraft, you're in a Wi-Fi confidential environment where you can handle business from the time you get on the plane to the time you land, and getting your ground transportation and make it to wherever you need to go. So we like to create that seamless environment as well for these professionals to continue to make, a value added of their time.
Okay. And now that you've got the opportunity to go international, what markets are you targeting?
Well, currently, we're looking more in Europe and trying to make the connection between the northeastern United States and over to London and Germany and, that part of Europe at this point. We like to have more operations and also companies that have corporate operations in the northeastern part of the United States and also operations over in Europe. I mean, a great example for us is we have an aircraft manufacturing company, which is literally a half mile from me here, called Spirit Aviation.
Yeah.
They build the Airbus A350, the entire center fuselage here, right next door to me, of composite material. And they have, facilities in Scotland, facilities in Toulouse in France, and out of the Middle East. So working with companies like this, great efficiencies for them to be able to get where they need to go, and also all the way back to their corporate headquarters in Wichita, which is the Midwest part of the United States. So yeah, being a gateway to this Western Europe for us is something we feel is a tremendous opportunity for us.
Yeah, no, I think it's incredible. And as far now as what has happened, and it's terrible, and obviously, there's a lot of press now about the US. Unfortunately, here in the UK, the numbers are ramping up, so it's not good. And then people who are used to looking at numbers and trends, they're trying to work out when it's going to plateau, etc. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, these numbers and these trends mean people's lives, which is a terrible thing. So as far as risk and business continuity and contingency, would you say that because of the rebirth or a second coming, that you guys have always been aware of that and have been a little bit better prepared?
We have tried to take a very clinical approach to this. When we saw this emerge out of China and also what was happening in Italy and Europe, we immediately started to call our contemporaries in these countries and start to model how that may impact transportation, and what are the guidelines from the CDC here in the United States about creating a sterile environment and obviously being able to identify any issues with passengers and things of that nature. So we're all over this. It's always been a big part of our company, the health component, so even more emphasized at this point. But yeah, I mean, it's something that, we've looked at and what was happening overseas. And, the forecast here in this country, you're seeing some discussion. We've seen devastating effects in some parts of the United States, like New York City, and Louisiana, and New Orleans on Louisiana. But you also saw some first movers like San Francisco, which appeared initially to be the hotbed here in this country, which actually did a remarkable job with stay-at-home orders, and they've been able to plateau a little earlier than most. And really, at the end of the day, what the characteristic of this pandemic and what has proven challenging is that people can be carriers for several weeks without you even knowing the symptoms are in place and unknowingly transmitting this around. So we're really behind the strategy here, and we believe in this, that mass testing across the country and obviously protecting the vulnerable and putting people in a position where we're able to diagnose and isolate is really going to be the key. I mean, if you follow what the epidemiologists and all the others, the pandemic folks that are studying this, look, there's not going to be a truly viable quarantine for this. It could be a year. It could be 2 years. It could be 3 years. Yeah. So what does travel look like? What does risk mitigation? You can't forever shut down your economy. This country, probably sooner than you think, vast areas of the United States will open back up for business to some degree or another, I think, probably within 45 days, especially the middle part of the country. That's going to happen. The U.S. has kind of a decentralized approach. While you have a press conference every day in Washington, D.C. with the president, it's really the governors who are calling the shots. Yeah. The governors in all 50 states. And yesterday you saw the Western governors for Oregon, Washington, and California formed together in a strategy. And you also saw the Northeastern United States with Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, over 104 million people, these two groups of coalitions about when they plan to have a very cautious reopening of their economies.
And that's what people sometimes forget. I was lucky enough to live in the States. So I lived in Atlanta. And
great area.
Yeah, so I loved it. Fantastic. And then for a short period of time in Miami as well. But when you're visiting, it's all Hollywood and glitz. When you're living there, you realize that those 50 states are like 50 normal countries in Europe, and they're all different and they've all got different ideas.
Yes.
And then, people are seeing your illustrious leader who seems to swing one way or the other. I actually quite like the fella. I think he's a character and whatever. But some of the things that he says, then I can't see that being taken as gospel with lots of the governors. So there's going to be a lot of difference within the state. So it's going to be an interesting one to watch, I think. But from yourselves now, when do you think that you're going to be, back in some sort of more normal operations domestically?
Yeah, interesting question. As the pandemic started to break out, we saw some similar trends that you saw in Europe. Initially, we had a massive uptick of travel. We had 25% more travel over a period of weeks just prior to things to really starting to open up here and having issues, with COVID-19. And then the last couple of weeks, obviously, it has significantly tailed off down to less than 20% in terms of travel. We're still flying. We still have jets all over North America. Now we have a lot less flying going on, and we've kept our entire workforce in place, and our entire all our professionals are with the company because we're retooling for what we said Fly Exclusive 2.0. And for us, we're looking really closely as what we call the canaries in the mine shaft, so to speak.
Yeah.
For us, when do we see the flattening of the curve? In New York, in New Jersey, in Florida, some areas that we have a significant amount of critical mass of flying. And our thought process, as soon as we see, and I'm sure this is not unique, but as soon as we see the flattening of the curve in those areas, there's going to be a strategy probably within 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So we feel like there'll be significant flying back in place. And right now, we're earmarking at some point, maybe towards the end of May, some part in June, that we feel like that we'll have a significant amount of flying going on again, in a different world.
Yeah, no, I agree. And on that note, if I was going to fly for the first time with you guys, and I got the chance to speak to you, one of the things I'd say to you was, what's going to be different? So what degree of intense cleaning takes place after one flight and one group of passengers go off? How do you test the passengers getting on? And obviously people are listening to whether or not there's going to be a health passport or a certificate or an app or a band or whatever it's going to be. But forgetting all of those technical issues that may not happen, what would be the secure statement that you'd be able to say that is a unique selling point on your aircraft as opposed to any other aircraft? Especially when people are so worried and fearful of how long something can stay on metal surfaces and leather and what have you.
Well, number one, no one steps foot on an aircraft without it being cleaned twice. It is cleaned intensively the moment that the last passengers leave debark from the aircraft. And this is looked over not just by staff, but also by our pilot and co-pilot. We take the same attention to detail for your safety and how that plane is going to fly. When a pilot and a co-pilot walk around that aircraft and they check the wings, they check the avionics, they check the engines, and make sure everything is in working form. We take that same amount of specificity to how we view the interior of that aircraft, just as we do the exterior, as we transition from one group to the next, and also before we take on anyone else in our airplane.
I think that's something that's going to be very special moving forward, and people are always and thank God the aviation industry, it has a few issues, but I mean, it's one of the safest ways for anybody to travel, and it's because of the regulatory and the compliance issues, and also the safety and security checks. But I feel something that people are going to focus on more now is hygiene.
Very much so.
There's
You're
going to
need to be very specific in what you're doing.
An enhanced set of standards, and anybody that's going to be able to prove where they are on that spectrum of standards, I think is going to have an advantage.
Absolutely, no different than your quality of your maintenance record or your efficiencies in terms of making your flights and all the things you do. You ever notice, especially in the U.S., if you do fly commercial, there's always how often does this particular flight show up on time and all these other things? I think there'll be a health rating. I totally agree with you. And I think for us, it's something that we feel like we'll be able to really show as a strength in terms of how we market ourselves, to the flying public and making this a great alternative for them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And things like how are you addressing like your catering?
Yes. What we have done currently is we've removed all catering, anything that could be temporary in nature. We feel like in the current environment, the best way to get yourself out of these situations, the only catering we have are hand sanitizers that are yours individually that you're handed before you get on the aircraft and when you leave, and also anything else you need from a PPE standpoint that you might want to take with you as you continue off our aircraft onto a limousine or car travel or whatever you need to go. So, so right now we're taking a really wait and see on that approach of what other amenities we're going to provide. It might be something that the catering may literally only come on board with the clientele when they come on the aircraft. So it's something that's not pre-staged. They're able to actually see that being brought on with them.
And when you said about PPE, do you offer that as well to the customers?
We do if they're so inclined and they need that, and also we have a pretty rigorous Q&A that we require of the brokers that are looking to put individuals on our aircraft, and we ask as well in terms of any type of potential exposure or other things that we want to know all these things up front. So we protect the privacy and the confidentiality of everybody who flies with us, but we are definitely asking all the right questions to be able to create a safe environment. Which
is also a good thing for your employees, that you're actually looking to protect them as well.
It is, and we have a tremendous record thus far with our pilot corps, and with all our employees, and we're very proud of that. I mean, I know there have been, certain hot spots that have popped up with certain companies and certain other areas, and we're taking a really close look and making sure we protect our people.
That's incredible. Well, like again, I think it's an amazing opportunity, and it's something that people, they definitely haven't thought about enough. And I think fair play to you. You're taking a step in the right direction. And now I've got to ask you, and for anybody that will be watching this, they'll be looking at the screen behind you. What's that actually showing?
Well, we have, if you've ever seen a good screenshot, I should show you the full ops room here. It looks like something you would see in NASA.
Yeah.
We have an ops center here that is amazing. Tiered seating between our revenue management, our operations management, our retail folks, and our maintenance teams and our logistics people. This is really in real time, our aircraft and where they're stationed all over North America. So we actually, each of our offices throughout our suite here at our headquarters here at Fly Exclusive, all throughout Fly Exclusive, we're tracking a number of different panels here, which is the optimization of each aircraft, the optimization of our maintenance and sales teams, and also, where our aircraft are in real time all across North America.
Fantastic, huh? And also, you again, being the type of business that you are, you have your own crisis room as well.
We do. We do have a 24/7 protected area that we basically have 3 shifts that one crew comes in at a certain time, never interact with the other, and they do a handoff over the phone as they're coming in and doing a transition. So we do. We're 24/7 here, and that's how we operate.
Yeah, and that's also something I think that companies like yourselves and people who specialize in that sort of continuity and emergency response, there's going to be a market for explaining and showing and coaching and teaching other businesses who always have the attitude that, I don't need it and I'll never need it.
Well, in aviation, I mean, there are no small mistakes. You can't afford any. I mean, the record here is that we check and double check and redundancy in terms of how we take care of each little specific task on our aircraft. And I'll show you right out the window here. I mean, you can see our facility. Yeah. I mean, we've got our jets here and going through our maintenance literally right out my window here inside our hangars here. But, we're very, very specific in how we take care of our aircraft and everything we do. And you're right. I think it's something from our analytical approach that how we communicate, the job that we do. We also want to communicate that to our clientele and the customers that we hope to serve.
And I think anybody that's part of a big business and a big organization, they'll be reflecting on how their businesses have responded to this particular crisis. And if they see what you do, and if they see the way you've done it, and the way it's part of normal general expectation, I think that's also going to draw them towards your product again.
Yeah, and as a company, we are very, very focused on service. We have a tremendous amount of public servants and former military that work here, retired from the service, and now work for us. So it's a real strong culture for us, and taking care of that level of detail. And our headquarters is in the eastern coast of the United States, in North Carolina, which is a beautiful state.
Yep.
It's actually where the Wright brothers first flew the first airplane, here on the Outer Banks, just about a couple of hours just east of us here on the coastal Outer Banks of North Carolina. And there are a lot of storms and hurricanes here. And we're a forward operating base from the federal and state level to support communities all up and on the East Coast of the U.S. that have to deal with, deal with hurricanes and things of that nature. So, we're used to being able to respond here and take care of our communities.
Yeah, no, very good. Now, a question that I'd like to ask you: if you were able to wave a magic wand and you had 3 wishes for the outcome or the new normal, what would it be?
It's number one, that obviously on a personal level, that this gets over quickly, and that we can recharge our economies, and confidence across the board is something that we could have in all the countries that are being impacted. I don't know that there's ever been such, since 1917, when the Spanish influenza, that the world has ever seen anything to this extent to the major world's economies. Wish number one is just to get this over as soon as possible. Wish number 2 is that we don't forget the lesson here, Chris.
Yeah.
This is something that we learn just from a human standpoint. No matter how much technology drives us, that we are all interconnected as communities and as human beings. And for us, never forgetting that. And number 3, the lessons that we learn here, that we'll learn from that in terms of how we're able to bring people safely to where they need to go. And as a company, we take that to heart and do a great job for the people we want to serve.
Yeah, no, that's very good. And, it's something as well where I've been speaking to most of the people. And, when you grow up as a kid, you see heroes, you see comics, you see films, and all these superheroes wear a uniform. Whether it's a cloak or a fancy skin-tight suit or whatever, and you associate that with heroes. And now the real heroes are still wearing uniforms, but they were people that we never took any notice of. And now when you see all this, outpouring of affection and gratitude and respect, whether it be clapping on a Thursday or banners or showing appreciation to care workers and frontline workers, there's so many people that deserve so much more respect and so much more standing and status in the new normal. Please God, that's going to be something that politicians, governments, and the people are going to want to see happen.
This is, you may have heard of Mr. Rogers. You ever heard of Mr. Rogers? He was a television figure here in the United States that on the public broadcast. And for decades, he would do children's shows. And one of the things they talked about is whenever there's a tragedy, don't focus on the tragedy. Look for the people that are helping people.
Yeah.
Always look for the heroes. That's where you need to focus, and whatever that may be. And we have healthcare frontline workers who are stepping into the breach.
Yep.
In London and Liverpool and Paris and here in North Carolina, in the Bronx in New York, that have only the minimal protection. And some of them are losing their lives right now. And they're passionate about saving life. And that's something I think we'll never, ever, ever forget. We take for granted this halo of protection that's around us, these tremendous healthcare workers that while other people get caught up in so much cynicism, it's a reminder of that Hippocratic oath and what that really means for people in healthcare who've dedicated their life to keep us safe and take care of our friends and families.
Yeah. And like I said, I think, please God, when things start to plateau out and come down, people need to focus on how you repay and what you do to make those heroes feel special.
Absolutely. And we're not done yet. I mean, we're only in a certain phase of this entire event across the world. I think we have to get our second win now. And like we talked about before, phase 1 is the shock of an event when it happens. Phase 2 is as you start to get past and absorb what's going on. And phase 3 is, what does the new normal look like? And what especially in our business or just the world in general, and, getting ready for what that's going to look like. And part of that is understanding, I think even healthcare will never be the same.
Yep.
It's going to have to be much more intimately involved, even in our business and in everything that everyone does.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. New rules, new guidelines, new standards, and also stop all this bureaucracy for the sake of it and blocking, and things have to be done quicker.
I hope that when we look back on this, it's something that from a presidential elections and state elections and frankly around the world, where the dynamic of just pure human dignity with healthcare and making sure that we're in a position to take care of ourselves is something that if anything is a byproduct from a difficult situation and a tragedy, let's hope this is something that comes to the forefront. I think to make sure we have quality healthcare across this country, obviously, and everyone in need.
Yeah, 100%. Spoken like a true mayor.
Yes, true. I've had my share of challenges in my 3 terms and serving as a mayor and going through some. But it's what I've learned and something that someone told me a long time ago. And Chris, everyone needs to take this to heart. Never try to be someone you're not. Whether you're a leader in any capacity. Be true to yourself and be true to your heart. Be true to your passion, and people will see that. That's how you get things done.
No, 100%. And then you've only got regrets for what's happened, not for what didn't happen.
That absolutely. Always reach out to try to do that, and we believe that with what we're doing, and that's why I do what I do. We feel like we provide an amazing service for people who need it, and we think that role is going to continue to expand as we get on the other side of this episode.
I think it's superb. It's infectious. I've enjoyed it, and I'd want to say thank you very much for joining us on the show. And please God, in some near future, whether it's at a conference or a visit or whatever, we'd love to do a live show with you. Also to have a look around at your facilities and the equipment. But the best of luck, and I think if anybody's going to do well, it will be yourselves. So good luck.
Chris, thank you for stepping into everyone's living room and wherever they are and give them a taste of what's going on here in North Carolina and all over the world right now. And please go to flyexclusive.com if anyone wants to learn more about us and our company and our mission and what we want to do. And I really look forward, as you say, and get a chance to do this again in person sometime soon. And because you have a passion for what you do and we do as well. And that's a good friend to have. Thank you, my friend.
Likewise, Alan. Look forward to it. God bless, keep well, and great success.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.